Is Crash Team Racing canon? Yep. Okay, of course you're probably expecting me to explain, and it's really quite simple. The key to figuring this out is Crash Team Racing's own original character, Nitrous Oxide. Before Crash Team Racing, we don't see Oxide appear in any main series Crash games, giving off the impression that Crash Team Racing is a spin-off, and therefore not canon. However, once we go beyond that and get into the post-Naughty Dog games, we reach Twinsanity, where we see Oxide here, as Cortex gives his little speech. Cortex acknowledges Oxide as part of Crash's past, despite Oxide not appearing in any main series titles before that. So the only logical answer is that Crash Team Racing is canon, and that carries on to Crash Nitro Kart as we see Oxide once again racing for Velo's team. And thanks to Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, we can now bring Crash Tag Team Racing into canon with characters like Chick, Stu, Pasadena, and Von Clutch. Chick and Stu appear in cutscenes, plus you can have Pasadena and Von Clutch participate in the adventure mode. This isn't the first time the remakes have retconned or switched up a few things in the original game's story. If you remember back in the Insane trilogy, they changed it so Coco uses the Time Twister from Crash 3 to go back and help Crash in his previous adventures. So with Oxide's appearance in Twinsanity helping Crash Team Racing and Crash Nitro Kart become canon, that now helps Crash Tag Team Racing connect to everything. So now that we know the Crash Racing titles are canon, what fun things could they affect in the future? I'm sure they could do lots of fun things with the characters especially. It'd be a shame if they were created just for the racing games and never showed up again. Sonic Riders. Let's start with Oxide specifically, since he's been a pretty big point of discussion thus far, and since we already see him in a canon game. Now, when we see Oxide again in Twinsanity, he's still in his hover car, which means racing is still obviously his thing, even when outside of a racing game. And he's with Cortex and the other villains, so he obviously still sees Crash as an enemy and wants to take him out. So if Oxide were to come back, we could potentially see him as a boss battle. Specifically, a boss battle for a vehicle level. Perhaps we could get motorcycle levels again, where the goal is to outrace Oxide, but he can make them unique from other motorcycle levels by throwing out items from Crash Team Racing. Sounds pretty fun, doesn't it? Now, I don't see much potential in Oxide as a character having a big role in a story, but for this little boss battle, it could totally work. Now, for Crash Nitro Kart, it's kind of interesting because none of their characters are technically villains. I mean, Emperor Velo is at the start, but he seems to have learned his lesson by the end. He even promises to leave the heroes alone from now on and stop his silly little competitions. And as for the bosses you race to get up to Velo, they're definitely not villains. Nash and Geary are sore losers, but they're totally harmless. And there's no possible way Kronk or the Norms are villains because they're actually very good sports about losing and actually congratulate you. So if the Crash Nitro Kart bosses wouldn't be good fits for main series bosses, then where could they be? Well, in the original trilogy, we had different themes for levels. The first game had Across Islands, the second game had Around the World, and the third game had Through Time. So for a potential future Crash game, we could have levels based on different planets, the planets of the Crash Nitro Kart bosses. Terra for Kronk, Baron for Nash, Phenomena for the Norms, Techni for Geary, and Gazmoxia for Velo, because that's where I'm assuming he's from? I mean, he does look a lot like Zim, and he's Gazmoxian, so that could be a good way to put Zim and Zam into the game as well. So each of the Nitro Kart bosses could be guides or side quest givers to their respective home planets. Not to mention, it could open up some fun story or plot points too. And Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, Out of Time is rebranded as Entropy's track, even though in Crash Nitro Kart it belongs to the Norms. So perhaps in a new Crash game we find out that Entropy took over Phenomena, and we have to help the Norms get their home planet back. Or perhaps in the Gazmoxia world, Oxide grows tired of Velo reforming to good, and overthrows him, which leads to the boss battle with Oxide I mentioned earlier, as we try to help Velo get his throne back. There's so many cool ideas! But the Crash Tag Team characters are a little tricky to come up with something. Nitro-Fueled definitely helps some by giving them the whole circus thing instead of their entire personality revolving around racing. But it's not much, especially since it seems that Tana could potentially be back for good now, removing Pasadena's purpose of being a love interest for Crash. So with their whole new circus motif, I figured the Tag Team Racing characters could be hosts for different little minigame sections throughout the main story, They could even include the Nitro Squad in there since they even have their own positions in the circus. The only wrench in that plan is Koala Kong, because as we see in the cutscene I showed earlier confirming Oxide is canon, we see that Koala Kong is still very much opposing Crash. But he could easily be replaced as the strongman with Rillaru, as he's rumored to be coming to Crash Team Racing as well, through data mines and spotting his picture up on Koala Kong's Neon Circus track. But I suppose it could be entirely possible that Koala Kong could still run the circus while fighting Crash. Similar to how after the first game in CTR, Pinstripe stopped working for Cortex and went off to do his own thing, yet still came back into Insanity to oppose Crash. I mean, of course the bosses can do both. Their lives go on without Crash being around. Koala Kong's case just takes a little planning and theorizing to think around. And finally, characters like Chicken Stew just kind of solve their own problem. They could appear in future titles at the beginning of the story, alerting our protagonists of Cortex's plans through news reports. But overall, yes, Crash Team Racing is canon, and their original characters have plenty of room to fit in the main story. Whether or not we'll see them in the future is unknown, but I hope we do because they have a surprising amount of potential as we've just seen. But let me know what you guys think. Where could you see all these characters in the future of the Crash Bandicoot series? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Leopold the Brave, out.